everyone. Welcome to May's edition. Man, May 2022. Can you believe it? May's edition of All Access Belize. I am coming to you from Dallas, Texas. I'm here for a class and to have a meetup talking about beautiful Belize. And so I figured I'd wear a Belize shirt, even though I'm not in Belize. And we have Jamal with us and his partner, Elder. Hey guys, thanks for joining.
Hi, David.
And then on the back end, we have Serena and Sarah, and they're going to be helping to monitor, our just moderate this. I asked it if you have question and answers to put it in the question and answer box. That way I can just monitor that and not have to toggle between that and chat. So if you happen to throw a question in chat, Serena or Sarah will ask you to move it to question and answer. So again, I'm David, your host for tonight, and thanks for joining us. And we have some pretty cool times right now. It's Belize is just busier than ever. We're getting a lot of advertising. Forbes is coming out about how Belize has to be on your list to visit for 2022, and several others that I'll write about next week on my Belize update that I get a lot of positive feedback from. So stay tuned for that. And so, with everything going on in the world with inflation, the Fed came out that inflation is about 8%, but we know that it has to be higher than 8%. For many reasons. Not saying they're lying, just they're understating. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about inflation and how it kind of relates to Belize, and when it specifically how it relates to building. Jamal and his partner are in the building trade here in Placencia, and so we're going to talk about that. And again, any other question, we're happy to answer. The COVID update for Belize is there's masks are no longer required anywhere. You're more than happy to wear it if you want. The plane ride from Belize to Dallas, we didn't have to wear a mask. We didn't have to wear a mask in the Dallas airport and the Belize airport. The only ones that enforced the mask was Maya Island. So I'm gonna switch to Tropic, because Tropic you don't have to wear a mask. I hate them things. So again, put your chat or put your questions in the question and answer box. And what I'm gonna do is I'd like to introduce you to Jamal and Elder, and also probably midway during the webinar, Serena's gonna throw up a poll, and somebody who answers the question will win a book of your choice. Robert Kiyosaki, The Go-Giver, any book, financial book like that, we can offer, or I'll offer one of mine that I co-authored, which is Don't Quit. Jamal, thanks for joining us, and talk to us a little about where you're at. And, you live in Placencia, but give us a little bit of your story.
Okay. Hello, everybody. As David mentioned, my name is Jamal Boualem, not native of Belize, but I have lived in Belize for about 10 years or so now. It is home. I come to it from Atlanta, Georgia. I know you can't tell by my southern twang, but I have grown up in Georgia, believe it or not. And now it's Belize. So again, Belize has been home for 10 years, 2011, I believe, or so. We've been building houses since then. And frankly, when I got here 10 years ago, I thought, man, this is a lot of work. Now it has never relented. It's going crazy. It's even more so now. A lot of construction going on, a lot of people building. You'll find a lot of Americans, Canadians, Western European mostly, but for the most part Americans. And for some reason, I don't know why, or this is just my impression, a lot of Texans, a lot of Californians, and a lot of people from the different parts of the country as well. But yeah, so it's construction is right now it's booming. We are making up for the time of COVID time where things kind of slow down for good reason. But now it's back to, I don't know if I want to use the word normal, but it's back to just about where it was before. Life in general in Belize, but as far as construction goes, we are really kind of making up for lost time, basically. Property is selling like crazy. Demand is high. Frankly, prices as well, and in some areas more than others. I remember a while back, a long time ago, thinking that I wish I could find a place where it's kind of a sleepy town where people haven't discovered it yet, and I'll get there first, and I'll just make bank, so to speak. And so 10 years ago, Belize was that. 5 years ago, Belize was that. It's still that to a certain extent. But people are waking up to Belize. Belize is on a lot of people's radar. And I would say the window is closing, maybe another 10 years or so. So the time is now. That's my impression, David.
Yeah, very good. And then Elder's with you. Tell us a little bit about Elder, what you do, and you know, kind of give us your little story.
Well, hi everybody. Well, I am an architect, now graduated from Guatemala City, San Carlos, like 2010. Then I used to work in Belmopano there. I started to work. Then I moved to the south of Belize to work at Sanctuary Belize, where I started designing and building homes. After a while, I moved to Placencia, which I've been liking because there's more work here in designing and building. So that's what we are doing now up to date.
Very good.
Yeah. If I just may add, David, that since Elder mentioned the Placencia, I don't know how this came about, but it just seems to me like Belize has divided itself into different categories, and I feel like Placencia, along with San Pedro and a couple of other places, became the choice place for expats and tourists, and that's how things have been going for the last 5-6 years or so. So it's no mystery that Placencia, San Pedro, and places like that are booming construction-wise because the demand is a lot higher. I just want to kind of add that as a caveat.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. We see it, and just, you know, a brief little I mean, last year was probably one of our better years, and we did probably about $38 million worth of real estate sales last year. This year, we're just in May, and we're already hitting about 25 million. Wow, so tremendous. This is gonna be probably the best year we've ever had. People are seeing what's going on in the world, and they want a simpler life, and Belize is where it's at. So we have some good questions. So when you're building a septic tank, can you give us a general cost of what a septic tank would cost?
I'm going to touch on cost a little bit and let Elder talk about the structure of it and how we build it and what it looks like. So generally, septic tanks are not used a lot in the US, and a lot of people are not familiar with them in general because we have the city service or the county service or the neighborhood service. But septic tanks in Belize are used quite often, exclusively. Very places have municipal septic systems in there. So to go back to construction, it is basically most of the time, it is a chamber, a couple chambers, maybe 3 chambers, 2 or 3 chambers of concrete, and with an aerator on it, generally. The cost could run you anywhere from, say, a small system of $1,500, maybe 5 to 5,000. Correct. And then it goes up from there. So I would say for most of the houses we have built, I don't think we have ever built a system that's more than I want to say 8 grand, something like that, in that range. So anywhere from $1,500 on a small system, all the way up to a large system for say a 5,000 square feet home, 6,000 square feet home. It's not gonna max 10 grand.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
It differs if it's residential or commercial.
Correct.
Because for a commercial, let's say a resort, you have to build a connecting system, or a main septic system.
For the whole community, correct? For the whole complex, I should say. Yeah. But if it's individual residential homes, you do a separate septic tank, septic system, and generally an average house, I would say about 5 grand.
Okay. Now then, what about touch on the like the ones that they have in the Peninsula Club? Those are the micro, the aerators.
Right.
And things
Yeah.
Those can get kind of expensive, right?
Yeah. So that the unit. So the tanks are basically the same. The tanks are the same that you build out of concrete. They are the same. And then you add an aerator to it. The aerator generally is about 4,000 US, 7,000 Belize to 8,000 Belize, so 4,000 US in that range. So if you do install one of those, then yes, you're upping the price by another $3,000 to $4,000. The aerator basically, just as the name would suggest, it basically puts air in the system and it decomposes the particles in there faster, and it keeps it cleaner, and it's bubbling all the time. I would recommend it to anybody who could afford it, but a lot of people do without.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I'm very familiar with septic tanks. I had one in the States before I moved here, and if they're built properly, they can give you no problems whatsoever. But there are places that do clean them out. It's about $350, $400 Belize dollars to clean them out. So Mr. Rogers is asking about property insurance. So property insurance, it can run you, anywhere between 1% of the assessed value to 3%. A wood structure, wood pilings will kind of be on that 3% range. A concrete structure will give you about 1%. So if you're building a $500,000 house, you can subtract the value of the land, and then you just multiply that times, between 1% and 3%. Now, Belize, we do have all perils insurance, so it covers everything. There's no riders like in the States where you have to add earthquake, you have to add flood or hurricane.
It is all inclusive. It's all inclusive.
It's all inclusive, correct. So, and most places they're underwritten by probably a larger company like Lloyd's of London or an underwriter, and then the local company takes a portion of it as well. So then Mr. Rogers is asking also about how do you pay for property. So most of the real estate agents do have a escrow account, and some lawyers do as well. But I would definitely check and make sure, because there are some real estate companies that don't have a dedicated escrow account. They kind of commingle funds, which is not cool. But then they do have some that have escrow accounts. We at First Choice at RE/MAX, we do have a US dollar escrow account at Chase and Wells Fargo. And we also have a US dollar account at the local Atlantic Bank. So depending on how the property is titled and who's buying, that will tell us where we can send the funds to. There's really no need to, like I'm sure Jamal has a US bank account. So if you're building a house, you can, send your draws to Jamal. Is that correct?
Correct. And it's actually Wells Fargo as well.
Yep.
Yep.
And then I know we do have a service where if, let's say Jamal doesn't, we have a service where you can put all the money in our escrow account, and then we will, pay draws based on that. Shay's saying, this All Access Belize is brought to you by Whataburger. No, Whataburger is not in Belize. I'm in Dallas. If you came on a little late, I'm attending a conference and a class. And so the first stop I always go to is Whataburger.
Whataburger.
So everybody is seeing my Whataburger cup. So I'm trying to promote Whataburger. I'd love for Whataburger to be in Belize. And since we have so many Texans, like Jamal said, we need one there.
We don't have Whataburger in Atlanta.
No, you don't.
I haven't seen them there.
No. So Jamal, what do you again, we're with Jamal and Elder, so they are a architect and builder. So if you came on late, throw your questions in. It don't have to be about building. It can be about anything. But until we have questions, I'll just keep asking. What are you seeing about the inflation we talked about? What are you seeing about prices and supply chains? In the US, there's some serious supply chain issues. Some people are having to wait 60 weeks for windows, trusses, things like that. What are you seeing in?
Yeah. I mean, frankly and truthfully, nobody's immune to that. If it affects one, it affects everybody basically. And so, as you know, David, Belize imports just about everything, at the exception of maybe agricultural products and tourism, little technology. So Belize is heavily invested in tourism. So everything else has to be basically brought from elsewhere, and namely the US. Some Chinese companies do business here, but everything is important. So when you're importing things, the supply chain becomes extremely important. And if the US is slow, Belize is going to be very slow. If China is slow, Belize is going to be slow. So the way we get around it anyway is there are staples that we kind of hold and hold on to, because we know we're using them all the time, and we buy a lot of and get it in here and let it sit. Obviously, we can't do that with everything. So, but for the main things that we need and we have to have on daily basis, we basically hoard them. We buy it and let it sit and wait until we use it. That's how we get around it in some cases. But for us building houses, when a house takes anywhere from 6 months to 8 months to build a house, adding a couple of months to it, all of a sudden it's not that major of it's not a big deal. It's 2 months out of 8. I don't want to say so what, but it's not a life-changing thing. So it's not affecting us that much as far as supply chain. What that does affect us, however, is inflation and the opposite direction prices go. That affects us. If you sign a contract with somebody today and that somebody's not ready to sign today and they're ready to sign in 6 months, the prices you give them 6 months ago no longer apply, and sometimes by 10, 15, 20%. That tends to skew things around and mess them up. And for the client and for us, obviously, we want them to be happy. And we don't want to go 6 months later and say, no, sorry, sir, or ma'am, your price has gone up by this much. We have absolutely no control over that. And I was reading an article yesterday about how a lot of the inflation factors could have been mitigated before they happened, but obviously they have happened and they were not mitigated. So now we're paying the price. I've also heard I've seen a couple of reports, somewhere for and somewhere against, and somewhere saying this is a short-lived, it's going to pass, and others saying no, it's going to hit for a long time. I don't know which one it is, and I'll claim to know that. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's transitory like what people are saying. It's kind of here to stay. And that's why everybody's talking about it. But one thing I did notice is that when there was a plywood shortage in the States, Belize was bringing in plywood from Brazil.
Correct.
And we had plenty of it. So we didn't see the escalation of prices like we did in the US. But a lot of things did go up a lot, right?
Sure. Yeah. Well, they have gone up a lot. And again, only because Belize is, for people who don't know, Belize is a fairly small country, and population-wise, it's very small. So we're looking at 350,000, 400,000 people. It's not a big country. It's not a populated country. But as far as surface, it is actually a good-sized country. And because of that, there is still a lot of greenery everywhere, a lot of open land everywhere. So you can see to the distance. So that's obviously a plus. The other plus is that the fact that because Belize is fairly small and a small population, we don't need a whole lot to supply to the country. So one source like Brazil, one source like the US, one source like China, one source will go a long way in satisfying the need of the country. So I think that's why, David, we have not felt it as hard yet. But if it continues, we might feel it. But right now, we're doing all right. We're doing good, actually. Doing well.
Yeah. Maybe it doesn't affect that much because the plywood, as you know, is reused now. We use it over and over.
Correct.
Like for four
Sure.
times. Or,
Correct.
but
Sure.
the steel has gone up like 35%.
Yeah. The heavy gauge steel has gone up.
Yeah.
The LGS steel has gone up, not as bad, but it has gone up as well. So yeah, some things have gone up, but right now it's still manageable. Right now it's still within.
Shipping is going up.
Right. So, and again, I don't know what the future holds. So.
Right. And I know, I forgot what I was going to say, but we'll go into, price per square foot. Charles is asking. I know price per square foot to build is probably not the best way to come up with a price,
Right.
especially because, your kitchen, your bathrooms are going to be a lot more than a deck. But if you average it all out together, about what is the average cost per square foot? I know a couple of years ago, it was about $135 a square foot.
Right.
What are you saying now per square foot?
So the way I would answer that is, David, and I'm not trying to be too evasive at all. It's just that it's really, really a hard way to answer that question based on square foot alone. For one example, if all equal and a house is all built with wood, for instance, and all equal there, when it comes to finishes, then that changes. So some people may choose to spend a lot more money on finishes than others do. So that will skew the the price per square foot a lot. And then I don't know how to answer that. But what David says stands to reason. And because of that, I can only give you a wide range. And the wide range will be anywhere from 110 to 150. That's the wide range. So now whether you go into concrete, is going to be different price from wood. It's going to be different price from what we use, LGS steel, light gauge steel, or anything else for that matter. So as you change the material or you change the method of building, it's going to change square foot price.
Correct.
Also, when you do get a square foot price, that is only an average, because like David mentioned, the price for what we call under AC square footage is different from garage space, which is different from balcony space, which is different from a basement space. So all the spaces are different and warrant their own square footage. But if you were to average it out, then yes, we go back to that, the same range that I mentioned, that David mentioned. Yeah.
And it could, I looked at a house the other day in the reserve, and this house has an elevator. It's like pimped out.
I know the one you're talking about. Yeah.
So this one is not $150 a square foot. This one's probably in the $300-400 a square foot range.
Correct.
So, what we're talking about, $150 a square foot would be a concrete house with nice finishings, high-end finishings, but not lavish finishings.
Not super chic, yes, not super expensive.
Correct.
It'd be extremely comfortable. It'd be comparable to what you would call a high-end house in the US. It would not be a cliche. It's not a Beverly Hills mansion. It's a nice family house. Yes.
Right. I walked into this bathroom and the toilet seat opened up and a heated seat. It washes your butt for you. It flushes automatically.
Which by the way, a heated seat in Belize would be a detriment. You don't want. If it's got ice in there, I'll buy it.
Exactly.
Another one.
But that just kind of gives you a general idea. You could get a Mennonite house with second grade wood, probably for $100 a square foot with some basic finish.
Correct.
So it is kind of, that gives you a good average, and we are talking US dollars here.
Yes.
Anyway, so Gordon is asking, what does solar cost run and many issues with them? I'll tell you what I know about it, and then we can see if Jamal and Elder have anything. a buddy of mine, LB, is doing some solar stuff now, and probably about 40, 50 grand. Belize will get you a decent solar system with some nice batteries and kind of a backup generator, if you will. It's made in Placencia, and it will run like your household appliances and maybe 2 ACs. So it's pretty cool. Prices are going down, but just like building a house, it can go up there. I mean, we have Tesla battery banks and Tesla stuff as well. So it just kind of depends on what you're looking for and things like that. The solar is not too expensive. The expensive part is the batteries, and they tend not to last that long here. Y'all want anything to add on that?
I would say that lithium batteries are kind of making their way into the market as well, and they seem to be very promising. I would also add that, as I mentioned earlier, that in Belize, you can import just about anything you want and need. So if there is something that you want and you cannot find it in Belize, not available in Belize, you ship it from the US. Most things from the US could be here in 15 days. There are several shipping companies will bring it to you here. You have to pay customs for it, which ranges anywhere from, I would say, 15 to 20%. That's, you have to pay that. You pay shipping, and then you basically bring wherever you want, whether it's a car or a solar system, you could do that. So that is not, the distance is not going to keep you from getting what you want, basically. That's my point.
Exactly. So Shay's saying, generally speaking, for a modest home, what does it cost per square foot to build in US? So we kind of touched on that a little bit. It will range anywhere between 110 to about 150 to get you a decent, property, if you will. The cost for an acre in Placencia, you're not really going to find any acres in Placencia. You can have some development sites that will be, over an acre, couple acres, but they're going to be in the millions of dollars. Basically what we sell right now in Placencia is quarter acre lots, and they go for everything from 35,000 all the way up to 300,000-400,000, to be on the beach and everything in between. So that kind of gives you, kind of what we have in Placencia. So Jamal, you tell us a little about LGS, because our next question is like, do you build all steel? So talk to us about what LGS does. You don't just build in steel. Talk about your company, and then also Serena will put in the chat, how to get a hold of Jamal when you're looking at building in Placencia. They'll be very happy to help. Like most of my job is education, educating you about the market, buying property here, things like that. And Jamal, a lot of that is probably the same with him. And then it's, getting the drawings together, if you will. So talk to us about the company and what LGS is.
Right. So the company is, again, it's about 10 years old or so. In that 10 years, I feel like we really have evolved. We went from and because we follow the clientele and we try to give them what they want and what they ask for. And so initially, most or all the construction we did at that time was mainly concrete blocks, cement, just like you do in most of in the US in some places, I guess. We have built very little with wood, and frankly, it's not my favorite way of building. But if somebody wants it, then we have to do it. We do it. But again, I can't stress that enough. It's not my favorite method of building. So concrete is good, it's durable, it lasts forever. It is also cumbersome. It's also a very slow process of building. It is also not economical when it comes to power usage, when it comes to, and I understand that everything in life, it's a give and take, it's a trade-off. So With concrete is that it's hot in Belize. It's summer all the time. When it gets down to 60, people wear a jacket. So that's the kind of weather we live in. We love it most of the time. There are a couple of days it gets too hot and we hate it, but for the most part we love it. So the concrete is again cumbersome, and my problem with it is efficiency as far as heat and cold. In this case, heat. And also the time it takes to build a house in Belize with concrete tend to be, for my taste, too long. So that led us to research other ways of building that's more economical, faster. If it's faster, generally it's also economical because you just spend less time building it with less people. And so in that, looking for different methods, and I found the LGS. Stands for light gauge steel. So it is pretty prevalent in some parts of the world, and not so much in the US, not so much, more so in Canada. And frankly, the main reason why it is not used a lot in the US is because it's competing with wood. So as in the US, most of the framing is done with wood. It's stick framing, it's 2x4s, and so this directly competes with that. But instead of being wood, the other thing that I mentioned in Belize is that termites can be pretty bad with wood in Belize. Well, anywhere in the world, really. So finding this LGS, the light gauge steel, has been for me the answer to what I consider to be several problems and how to fix them. The light gauge steel is, as its name will suggest, it is light steel. It's an alloy. It's a mix. It's a very, very solid, and it replaces the wood for framing. So you could have the structure done in no time, basically. The other thing that that made it very attractive to me is that coupled with technology, it made it an awesome product. Basically, where the architect here, like Elder, will do the drawing. That drawing is converted into a structural drawing. The structural drawing is entered into, I want to say a machine, but really it's more like a printer, not a machine. The drawing is entered into the printer. The printer will spritz out all the metal that you entered in the machine, cut exactly to size, no mistakes, no errors. It is to the decimal point allowance tolerance in there. So it makes it very simple, very easy. It becomes, and one other thing that makes it a lot faster to work with is because you don't have to have any big training to put this together. It's literally child's play. Once the machine does all the time, basically, all everything. Once you get it done and you put it together, you can actually put it together indoors, in a factory, in a warehouse, and carry it to the job site and install it. The foundation remains the same, the roof remains the same, the structure is actually steel. And what we do with it is we cover the outside with whatever cladding the client wants. We cover the interior, and then we pump inside what's called light concrete foam. It's basically an insulation process that we put in there that makes the house a lot cooler by using that method. And it's cheaper, faster, and for me, frankly, I can't ask for better product than that. So we use that a lot. Now, if somebody, which we are doing in the next 10 days or so, if somebody insists on having a house built out of concrete, we say yes, sir. So
Exactly.
That's what we
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
And I mean, I think I've talked about it before. Is I have, two houses. I have a concrete house and a wood house,
Right.
With some hardy plank, and I much prefer the wood and the hardy plank. It cools off easier, and the LGS is kind of the same. We built a fourplex together,
Right.
and out of that LGS, and it's cool. I mean, it looks really nice. The
like
ease
it a
of it
lot.
going up,
Yeah.
the time it takes to go up is so cool. So I'm anxious to see that kind of get bigger and bigger in Belize. So another question.
Just to throw something in there,
Yep.
David, sorry to interrupt, but so I was extremely encouraged when I read this article not too long ago that actually, I want to say the Army, Marine, no, the Army. The Army actually is they're actually building barracks with it as a project to see how it will do in America and how it will work. And I found that to be very encouraging that the Army is actually taking it on. And I think once they do it, I think it will go because frankly, there's no downside to it. There is not. at worst is as good as wood, but as wood. But I think it's a lot better. It's a lot better. Termite wise, weight wise, ease of working with, it's all the way around a great product.
And even just the fact that you're saving trees, not cutting trees down.
I didn't even want to get into the green side of it. Correct. There's a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
And
Charles is
that's
asking,
why it's not big in the US right now. It's because the tree industry doesn't want to let go. And good or bad, wrong or right, that's a subject for another day. But there is that subject. Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
Charles is asking, what's the average lead time on purchasing goods from the US, appliances, tools, furniture, and get shipped to Placencia? So I'll answer part of it. And part of it is that a lot of it you get here already. There is no lead time. I mean, we have appliance stores, we have furniture stores and things like that.
Right.
Most of the appliances here are probably made in Mexico, and we carry the parts for them. If you're bringing in appliances from the US, we might not have the parts for them, so you'll have to ship them in. But we do have everything. What kind of lead times are you showing for windows and other things in construction that might be a little bit harder?
So to your point, I mean, some of them are as easy as walking into Benny's or a store and buying them and going home. Some of them are like that. So I would say as you go up in price, there is less of a variety. So we order from a company in Guatemala, for instance, we get them in 15 days, 20 days. We work with China, we get that in 2 months, 2.5 months, sometimes 3 months. So it just depends on what it is and when. But for the person who is not extremely particular and doesn't want to spend a lot of money, you can literally build the whole house out of what's available here in Belize and not ever buy anything elsewhere, because there is everything here. Now, if it's just a matter of whether you're okay with Levi's versus Gucci. I don't know. I couldn't think of any other better examples than that.
Right.
That's the best I can do for you fashion-wise. I'm sorry.
Right.
But
Right.
yes, yeah.
Right.
So
Fair enough. Fair
I'm
enough.
happy with Levi's. I wear it all day long, and I'm totally okay with that. So
Fair enough.
Yeah.
As Mr. Rogers is asking about termites, they are an issue. They can be an issue. We don't have the termites, like, as y'all might know, I'm from Charleston, South Carolina, and we have those, what are they, subterranean termites, the ones you don't see. The ones in Belize that we have, you kind of see the trails and things like that.
Yeah.
So what I do, I mean, I have a guy that sprays every quarter. He's a little more costly, but he uses materials, or he uses chemicals from the US, like what Orkin and those that do. So they're totally safe for pets and everything like that. But I do, for my houses, I do walk around them quite often and spray every quarter or something like that for twice a year for the termites if I start to see them. But normally they're not too bad, unless you have a very wooded lot. Then you might want to keep an eye on it. Hey, Marty, how are you? She's asking about the cost of a moderate pool. What's the cost of a decent moderate pool? Tell us about the
I'll go back
size.
to I will go back to square footage again, and depending on how fancy it is. So a pool generally will price out as what we were talking about earlier, as under AC building on the higher end. So I would say, if I have to give Marty a good average, I would say 120 would be a good average. A 120 foot would be a good average.
Very good. And one thing about pools, the pool equipment, you can get high-end pool equipment, and it's pretty expensive here with the duty and all. Saltwater pools, things like that. I mean, we have all that here and can be done. So that's a good average. Christopher's asking, what's the veteran expat community look like in the Stand Creek area? Any veterans looking at teaching while I'm there? Any veterans doing that? No veterans really that are doing that. We have a lot of veterans. We have quite a few, retired military that are living here. Majority of them go back for their medical up, because their medical is free there. And medical's not too expensive here. So if they get a cold or something like that, but for major checkups and things like that, they do it all, all there. But it is big. I don't know if there's I don't see any Facebook groups about veterans in Belize. There might be.
I haven't.
I haven't seen it, but there are expat groups, and you just put on there you're a veteran and looking to be in Placencia or wherever you're at, and I mean, my buddy.
I was gonna say, come on down and be the one doing it.
Exactly. There's so many opportunities there.
Correct.
Hey, Renee Thompson, thanks for joining us. She was my DJ at my wedding, like umpteen years ago when I was like 20 something, 21 years old, and they're coming to Belize. They're coming to San Pedro. So nice. Thanks for joining us. She's asking, is there any building being done in San Pedro and any other areas in Belize? Oh. Yeah, Renee, there's a ton of building going on everywhere. A couple months ago, we had one of my agents on. They also have a building company in Hopkins. Today, we're talking with Jamal and Placencia, and I'll bring on somebody from San Pedro in a couple months as well. But there's construction in every area of the country. It's just really it's a hot market. So definitely wherever you want to be, there's somebody that will build for you. The problem is what we like to talk about is Belize is a sunny place for shady characters. So you have to make sure that, you check references and things like that. And that's what I like about Jamal is he has good references. He stands behind his work and things like that. You were going to say something, Jamal?
David. Yeah, if I may, David, I just want to be careful and not give people the impression that yes, there is construction. There's a lot of construction, but I don't want to give the impression that Belize is looking like Panama City, where I want to make that clear that you could go for a drive and go for miles on miles, and it's nothing but green all the way for miles. So there are hot spots. Like Placencia is hot right now. San Pedro is hot. So there are places where people where the equivalent of the downtown areas of a country in the world. Placencia would be one of them, but even that there's still. But this is very extremely green. It's there's water everywhere and it's green everywhere. The property that you buy to build on tends to be on the beach or within a cluster or within a community. Those are the ones that are high-end and expensive. But as David will tell you, there are areas, rural areas, where land is very affordable and plentiful. But that's not where you want to be, really. But if you go for a weekend drive, you will find those and you would love those and you would see them all over the place. So there are no skyscrapers, there are no cities on ends, no big malls, so it's an easy-going life with plenty of green, plenty of water, with hotspots. That's what we have. I just want to make sure that we understand that.
And most of our listeners have been here before or researching,
okay. Good.
And so they're kind of familiar with it, So definitely that's what makes us so great is we're not, Cancun, we're not
correct.
But we are building. There's over 100 houses in different phases of construction right now on the peninsula. So that's definitely, it's like you said, it's not, Cancun or anything like that.
Right.
So Mary's asking, what's your opinion on the Mennonite houses and cement the bottom for stability? I'll give my opinion on it and then definitely want to hear Jamal's opinion on it. I think Mennonite houses have their place. One of my offices in Hopkins is a Mennonite building. There's definitely different qualities of companies and there's different qualities of Mennonite houses. So they have 3 different grades, if you will. Third grade being pretty poor, very rough cut wood, things like that. And then grade 1 would be probably the best, but by the time, in my opinion, by the time you add the things you want to add, the hurricane straps, the good windows, AC, things like that, you might as well have something built.
Yes.
But they do have their place. Anything you want to add to that?
Not really. I mean, you said it. It's really as simple as that. It's what you can afford and what you want to accomplish. If you want, if you are going somewhere and wanting to buy something temporary that will last you X numbers of years, and you don't have the money to spend too much, and you buy the first one that David mentioned, which is the lesser quality, and it will last you a couple of years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever, and then you're done with it. If that's your goal, then there is nothing wrong with that. If it's something that you're buying thinking it's gonna last you 50 years, it's not going to. So I'm not sure what you're trying to accomplish. And so if your goal is to buy a home that you leave behind, that's not it.
Right. And I have seen, I mean, I've seen Linda Vista is one of my favorite companies. And I've seen many, withstand a category 4 hurricane, with the concrete base. So again, there's different types. And again, it's just depending on what you're going for. So Jessica's asking, what's the cost of termite treatments? And that kind of ranges. I'd say it's definitely cheaper than the US. I'd say a few hundred Belize dollars for an average house. You agree with that?
No, I would. Yeah, a few hundreds. It's not nothing that's going to break the bank, I don't think. But it is something to keep in mind and do it regularly.
Exactly. And Serena, if you want to go ahead and put the poll up, and while you put the poll up, we'll go ahead and answer some more questions. Jessica's also asking the average monthly cost of a pool. The several pools I know of that people have somebody that maintains them, runs around 150 Belize dollars a month, and that's a weekly visit. They check the water, the pH, and then I think that includes the cost of a couple chemicals. You have a pool at your house, Jamal. What does it cost you? The biggest thing would be the electricity, I know.
Yeah, it's running the pump basically, but also the chemicals. They get expensive after a while. It's basically the shock, the bleach thing that you use, tablets or powder. That you go through a fair amount. A bucket costs about $57-$60 Belize, so $30 US. You may need maybe 2-3 of those a month, something like that. So I would say to maintain a pool, $150 a month will do it. And I'm not talking about a major big pool. I'm talking about a regular size house pool, basically. So it's not going to bring the bank, but it is something that will consume money every month.
Very good. Yep. So Renee's asking, Jamal doesn't build in San Pedro. I mean, I'm sure he would, but there's plenty of builders there. And so the cost for him to do it would probably be more because he'd have to find a place to live, bring his tools over and things like that. But he'll answer that question. I won't answer for him, but what do you say?
I'd say you're right, David. Depending on the house, if it's and then I'm just being frank. If it's a small house, maybe too small of a house, then it may not be feasible for us or for the owner of the house for us to build it. If it's a large enough house where we can justify housing people there and hiring people there and transporting things to build it, and it's going to take a little bit to build it, then yes, I would be more than happy to build it because I love San Pedro anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
and I think Elder will go. I think Elder will go as well.
Elder would go too. As you all know, I have a asset management company, Caribbean Capital Group, and what we do is we help investors passively invest in real assets instead of the stock market. And one of the investments I'm working on is a mini storage in San Pedro, and Jamal and I have talked about doing the LGS there, versus a concrete building or something like that. So he definitely will travel anywhere. So it just, he has to cost it out if you want him to do it. Christopher's asking, and we have about 10 more minutes. And so, again, if you have any questions on construction or anything about Belize, if I don't know it, I'll ask Jamal. And if he doesn't know it, I'll find the answer and we'll give you an update next month. But Christopher's asking about the Manatee Highway, the update. It's coming along very good. They had a little setback about a month ago with all the rain we had. It washed out a couple of the roads. But I was just on it 2 weeks ago. And 2 weeks ago, it was fine. There was about a 1 mile, 2 mile stretch that was still kind of bumpy, but I'd say over about half of it is already paved. About another, not quite half is, so 50% is paved, probably about another 35% is about to be paved. And then the rest is, still needing to be done. So property values, like anywhere, going up in Belize. We're seeing multiple offers. We're seeing properties staying on the market. I mean, not hours, but, definitely days. And then, some take longer. I mean, it's all about pricing, right? But we are seeing property values go up. Not saying that, you have to buy now, but if you're interested, prices are going up. When I moved to Belize, you could get a beach lot for $130,000, $150,000. Those same beach lots are selling over $250,000 right now, and that's within. I've been living there 12 years, so you can see that's about what things are going up. So Mary's asking about what are the advantages and disadvantages for building versus outright buying a property already existing. Man, that's a great question.
It is. It is.
I'd say buying outright, it's done. You can move in right away. Building, you get what you want. You get new, no wear and tear, but you do have to wait. What do you think, Jamal?
That's very true. But I also think that you pay more for an existing home than you do for a new built one.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, here's a little anecdote for you. We built a house that I ultimately end up renting myself and keeping it for myself. Became friends with the owner, and we just kept the house for ourselves. And so we know exactly what the house was built for because we built it. We know what it cost. We know everything, and so we know what they paid. And now they're selling it. Today it's on the market, and I know what they're selling for as well. And the difference is about $200,000. So that to me is a big difference, and that's in a matter of maybe I want to say 3 years.
Yeah, I could say 3 to 4 years.
Yeah. It's actually exactly $200,000 difference in what they paid for, what they're selling for in 2 years. So I would attribute that to the fact that somebody is buying a house already built, they're willing to pay that for it versus somebody building it. They tend to save some. And frankly, building a house is it can be a pleasure, but it can also be a chore. It can also be 6 months of angst and waiting for it to be finished and finding this, finding that. So basically, you're paying for it that way. That's your investment. That you're getting the money you make off of it is because you put some sweat equity in it as well.
Yeah, very good answer. If building stamp duty on the land only, or will you have to pay that land then later? Yeah, so stamp duty is if you're buying a lot, stamp duty is only on the lot. When you build the house, you will pay about 12.5% on the materials, which is just our tax, if you will, our state tax, our country tax. So you will have that, but it's, I going back to that previous question. I mean, I've seen houses sell for below what it costs to build because of personal circumstances. But all in all, it's a lot cheaper to build new. And I think that's why we sell so much land and then they build when they're ready.
Right.
And I think
And,
that's
and
why.
also, David, that's why. Also, sorry to interrupt you, David, but that's also why there are people who build homes just for the sole purpose to resell them, because once it's built, it's worth more. So I know you were going in that direction, and I stopped you there, David. Sorry.
Exactly. Yep. No, very good. Jessica's asking, a price is negotiable for property like in North America. Yes, they are. Like Mahogany Bay, new construction, we don't negotiate. The developer doesn't negotiate on new construction. The price is the price. I'm sure Jamal's the same way. Building, there's pretty much a small profit margin. So there's not a lot of negotiating when it comes to building new. But when you're buying a property already built, it's our job as a real estate agent to take an offer, whatever you want. And either they'll counter or they'll say, or they'll take it, or they'll say no, depending on how low it is. So it's just like in North America. You make an offer, and I mean, I've seen people make ridiculous offers and they got it. Just because of personal circumstances, that I really couldn't disclose. But if I would have known they would have sold it for that, I would have bought it,
Worth yourself, right?
Yes. But anyways, so Shay's asking, is there a neighborhood or development you would recommend in Placencia for sailors with a catamaran and sailing, waterfront or marina? There's several. Jamal lives in one. There's probably one or two properties for sale in there by owner. Another company came in and a family office bought that property. So that's the Peninsula Club. Then
if you look at my hat, you see it on it.
That's right. Roberts Grove, Wild Orchid, are several others. There's a couple condominium complexes that have boat slips with the unit. And then there's people also that will rent you a space, so if you don't want to be, or if you're not on the water, but of course, if you're on the water or if you have a boat, you want to be on it. Then there's the Placencia Key. It's a small island just off of the coast of Placencia, and it has all the utilities from Placencia, and it's a boating community. So every house has its own dock and everything as well, just like those others. So there are several out there, and we're happy to send you links. So again, we're at the top of the hour. I appreciate the great attendance we had tonight. If you want to reach out to Jamal, Serena put it in the chat box. If she had it, if she didn't have it, reach out to me and I will get you in contact with Jamal and Elder. I don't have the dates, but it's probably about the same time next month for All Access Belize. Not sure who we'll have on. I've been trying to get somebody from the police department on so we can talk about crime in Belize. So hopefully by next month we'll have that. And again, Jamal, thanks. Elder, thanks for joining us tonight. Serena, darling. Serena's my daughter, if y'all didn't know. June 9th is the next, thank you, Serena. June 9th is the next All Access Belize. So thanks again for joining. Thanks for the familiar faces. And if you like what you heard, talk about it. This is a free webinar that I enjoy doing, and I hope you found it informative, and I hope everybody has a good night. Thanks, everyone.
Good night, y'all. Good night.